and thank all of you. It is fantastic to be here. This is my 4th CanvasCon, and the first one was, we were in some dark, sort of maze-like basement of a hotel, and I think there were about 50 people. I think we brought maybe 15, 16 Canvas employees, and I think most of those were from the US. And here we are today, and I believe we have about 400 total people who have registered for the event in just 4 short years. So very, very exciting, and for the 4th year in a row, I'm pleased to be here with all of you. I see so many familiar faces, and it's just so exciting to watch this movement grow. So thank you for your part in that, for pushing us, for helping us achieve what we have, and more than that, driving your own success and working together on that. What I hope to get out of this today, for all of you, I want you to understand the partnership that we want to drive with you, and what that partnership means, what we can do for you, and how we can assist you in driving your success at your institutions. Also, help you understand how we're investing here in the region. It's not an American company that is trying to just sell software across the world. I see us truly as a global enterprise, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, helping you understand our mission and some of the choices that we're making, that it's really all about people. We are very much a human potential company, and I think some really exciting things coming out of the company as a result of this mission. For me, I hope to make connections with more of you. There are, like I said, many faces that I recognize. I've visited some of your institutions. I've met with you. We've had meetings at the office. And I enjoy understanding the challenges that you are going through, understanding your goals, your vision for the future, and what success means to you. And by understanding that, hopefully we make better decisions that help empower you and your success. And then finally, ultimately, it's about helping you improve your students' lives. We want to write the software, and we want to engage with you in ways that help you achieve your vision. Not too long ago, maybe about a month and a half ago, I was in Australia, and cute little girl in a stroller. This is not her, but this is the closest I could get to the expression on her face. And I was talking to her, and I was teasing her, and I was trying to make her laugh, and she just gave me this look. And her mom said, "Hey, sweetie, why don't you want to talk to the man with the strange accent?" And I said, "Strange accent? It's you guys with the strange accent, right? Well, of course, I'm in Australia." And she said, "I don't know if you've looked around, but there's more of us than there are of you." I said, "Okay, point taken." And she said, "Well, apology accepted." That's fair, okay. So along those lines, I figured maybe we'd do a quick culture lesson here. Biscuits. Turns out I prefer your version of biscuits, especially when they have little bits of chocolate in them, to our version of biscuits. But, you know, they're also good. Then we have a bonnet. Nice Aston Martin. Anyone have an Aston Martin? I shouldn't ask. Beautiful car. That's a bonnet. For us, a bonnet is something that you wear on your head, right? Probably 100 years ago or more. Post. Okay, well, this one sort of makes sense, right? Because, like, the mailbox goes on the post. So fence post for us. Chips. I really like your chips a lot, especially with the vinegar thing. Maybe that's the Scottish blood in me. Deep fried, yes. Of course, our version is crisps, but we call them chips, right? The boot. Again, another great car. I won't ask. But for us, of course, the cowboy boot. The torch. This one kind of makes sense. They both give off light, right? Clown. Clowns are scary, aren't they? And then there's this guy. I'm sorry. I really shouldn't have done that. I apologize. Yeah. now you're all going to have nightmares. Our version's way scarier than yours. So the importance of investing in a local office. Obviously, if I can't even get the vocabulary right, you know, I'm at the restaurant ordering French fries when they're chips, right? How am I supposed to write software that meets all of your needs? And the reality is that I can't. And so we invest in local offices. We find people who are part of your culture, who speak your language, who understand your goals, your mission, your vision, so that we can do the right things for all of you. And really, it comes down to these local interactions so that we can build the right software and have that partnership with all of you. And I hope that over the past 4 years, you've seen this from us. As we continue to grow and expand, just this past year, we've added product resources. So a product manager here in office in the region who is a person from the UK and has grown up in this environment and understands what it's like to go through the school systems here. We now have 85 employees in the region. So when I talked about that first CanvasCon, when more than half of us, and there were only maybe 15, 16, came from the US, we now have 85 employees in region, and I think only maybe 2 or 3 are expats from the US. And so really have invested in this market, and I hope that you're seeing that. We're also looking for more space so that we can continue to grow. In fact, we've got a portion of our staff that we're going to carve out of the current office and move to a temporary space while we look for space that we can grow and expand into, because we plan on continuing to make this investment. So what is this partnership, right? Number one, first and foremost, we're not educators. Now, some of us are. Some of us have been teachers, educators, administrators, have come up through the tech side of your institutions. But really at the core of it, we're technologists. We're people that write software. And that means that we depend on all of you to help guide us. And it's through the interactions with you that we determine what to build. And so it's critical that we have this ongoing relationship and these ongoing interactions. And that's the power of events like today, is that we get you all in a room and we get to talk about what's important to you. And you get to share ideas and talk to each other. And hopefully, through these interactions, come together and find some commonality of need that you can then express to us, and we can help you solve those issues. So this is the partnership, and I very much hope that you lean on us and understand that we're not always going to make the best decisions in isolation, and that we need and rely on all of you. So here's our mission. By show of hands, how many of you have been to an InstructureCon ever? So out in the States. Okay, quite a few. So you may have seen this slide before. Maybe you've seen it here at some of our events here in Europe as well. So our goal is to make software that makes people smarter. I actually think that it's more than that. Our goal is really to enable human potential. It's about maximizing what people can achieve. And that all started on the academic side of things with Canvas. It was about improving teaching and learning. And since then, we've added other capabilities that we believe will help people achieve more at other stages in their life. So for example, we've got our corporate LMS that we believe will help people achieve more in the workplace. And as we expand that suite of offerings, we believe it will help employees develop. And it's even something that we're seeing many of our education customers in the US use as they work with their employees to develop their employees. And in fact, we're building out a whole suite of offerings around helping people maximize their own career development. Because learning is a lifelong thing. It's not just something that we do in school. And we believe we have the opportunity to influence learning throughout people's lives. The Instructure story, quickly, and I know that many of you may know this already. So we were founded back in 2008 by a couple of university students in the United States. Their instructor gave them an assignment. He said, hey, I want you to go out and find the most broken piece of software you can and talk about how you are going to disrupt that industry. And the two of them said, well, gosh, our LMS is super clunky and hard to use, and it goes down a lot, so let's look at that. And after this project, they came back and they said, hey, yeah, we got a B on the project, but we think we want to go disrupt this industry for real, right? And their instructor at the time, who had been a successful entrepreneur, he said, you know what, great, I'm going to give you $50,000, you guys go research this. He didn't think he'd ever hear from them again. Well, they came back a few months later and presented a business case, and he said, you know what, you've got something here. And he agreed to put in the initial money, the angel money, to get the thing off the ground. And he later became their CEO, and that's our CEO today, Josh Coates. Since then, so that was back in 2008, we started selling the software in 2011. We now have 1,100 employees across 8 offices globally. In fact, I think we actually have more offices if you count some little sales offices around the world. But 8 offices globally, including, obviously here in London, Sydney, Sao Paulo, Hong Kong, as well as a handful in the US. We're publicly traded, and we like that transparency. That means that you can look at our financials. You can see how we're doing as a company, what we're spending our money on, and how we're investing in all of you. So a few other facts. We're in more than 50 countries. That's maybe that's worthy of a round of applause here for Heather and team who have made that all happen. And you were all evidence of that. It's so exciting to see so many people coming from so many different places. I think a couple of years ago when I was here, I threw up I'm a big racing fan. I'm a big Formula One fan. So Formula One heroes, I put them up there from various countries. And I think a whole bunch of them fell flat because we didn't have anybody from those countries yet, and we've expanded. So it's great to see people from Belgium, for example. That was one of the ones that didn't get any traction last time. 20 million students. That's a lot of students. And then just recently, back on October 2nd, we hit a new high water mark in terms of simultaneous users. 981,000 people clicking in the system at the same time, within the same 5-second window. That's a lot of people on the platform. Here's our growth over time. So way back when, I think I joined way back here in the middle of 2011, and you can see the phenomenal growth that we've had since that time. Finally, uptime. Who likes their LMS to stay up and be available? So just yesterday, did any of you feel any slowness? Yes. A couple, yeah. Yeah, we had a little bit of a blip yesterday, and it was embarrassing. It's especially embarrassing for me to be here today after having that blip yesterday. But this is something that we put a lot of time and energy and effort and investment in, is because we know we need that system to be available for you all the time. And even when there are little blips, I think we're pretty good at recovering quickly. You look on Twitter, you see some of the other LMSs out there, and there is talk of them being down for hours, if not days. And gosh, we want to make sure that that never happens to you, because we know that this system is critical on your day-to-day. So this is our uptime. That previous one was 0 to 100%, blue representing the system's up, right? So if we zoom in on just the top 10% of availability, you begin to see a little line there. If you look at just the top 1%, right? So 99.97% uptime over the trailing 12 months. What about your region specifically? So we have globally deployed. It used to be that all of our servers were running out of the US. Now we have what we call clusters. So it's application servers and databases and all of the server equipment that is needed to run Canvas. We have those all in region. And you can see how each of those database clusters has performed over the previous 12 months. Now, some of them are fairly new, like Frankfurt here, 100%. Sure, we can celebrate it. I think it's only a couple months old, though. But yeah, really fantastic. We're proud of our team and what they've done, and I hope that you feel the difference, that you feel the uptime and the performance there as we make those investments and ensure that your system is available. Other regional figures. This was fantastic. I had no idea that our support team was handling this many requests. Over 45,000 requests that the support team here in London has fielded over the past 12 months. And 18,000 of those came from all of you, from your institutions. And they've done that with a 90% customer satisfaction rating. Now, 90% is pretty good. In the US school system, that'd be an A-. It's a good grade, right? Now, we shoot for something higher. We'd rather be, mid-90s. We think that that's achievable. And so we're going to keep working on this. But the team has made great strides just over the past few months in improving these scores. Also, the 92% SLA. So if you have Tier 1 service with us, we agree to pick up the phone within a minute of when you call. And 92% of the time, we're able to achieve that. And that's well above the contractual commitment. But contractual commitment isn't good enough for us. We know that there are students. We know that there are teachers on the other end of the line. And we want to make sure that we're providing the right support. And then NPS. How many of you know what NPS means? It's Net Promoter Score. A few. So let me explain that. Net Promoter Score is a question that people ask. And it is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend some service, so in this case, Instructure and Canvas, to a colleague? And scores of 9 or 10 are considered promoters. Those are good scores. 7 or 8 are considered neutral, and they're kind of disregarded. 6 or below are detractors. So you take your percent promoters minus your percent detractors, and you end up with a score. And if you have just detractors, your score can be negative 100, and if you have just promoters, your score can be positive 100. A score of 15 is considered quite good. A score of 50 is world class, and we're edging right up on that. And so I think it's safe to say that overall, you're feeling satisfied with our service and that you would recommend us to others. And that makes us feel good. This is what we go for. So I want to move on a little bit and talk about adversity. How many of you have been through some sort of adversity in your life? I know I have. I picked a really bad job once. It was probably the worst, most trying year of my life. I had made a mistake, but I came through that as a completely new person. And looking back on that experience, despite how miserable I was, I would not trade it for anything because it made me who I am today. And adversity can often do that for us. It shapes us. It creates a better version of ourselves. It allows us to see parts of ourselves that we perhaps didn't understand before and overcome some of our weaknesses. Anyone recognize this young man? Probably. He may have been in the news quite a bit. Again, I'm a racing fan, and even overseas he was making the news. This is Billy Munger. He's a young race car driver here in the UK. And he was in a horrible accident on the racetrack not too long ago, just a few short months ago. And in the process, this young man, 17 years old at the time, lost both of his legs. And that's devastating for a race car driver. How do you hit the gas and or the accelerator and the brake? What is he going to do? But instead of giving up, he never expressed any sort of anguish or despair. He immediately said, you know what, I'm going to get back in the car. And he's been working on it. Here he is back at the site of his crash, and he's been through physical therapy, and he's learning to walk again, now with prosthetics. But more than that, he's been back in the car. And in fact, next month, he plans on racing again. And he's working with a racing academy that is teaching him how to drive without legs. And in fact, the racing academy that he's working with the person who runs it, competed in last year's 24 Hours of Le Mans and scored or came in 38th, which doesn't sound great, but it's an endurance race, and not many people even finish it. And 38th is quite an accomplishment for a guy who is a quadruple amputee. And so Billy hopes to be racing in Le Mans in 2020. Fantastic story of determination and overcoming his challenges. Indomitable, impossible to subdue. I would say that describes Billy Munger. Here's somebody else. Anyone recognize this guy? Nope, I thought we might get one or two. You may have interacted with him over email. This is Seth Johnson. And Seth Johnson is our Senior Vice President of Customer Experience. For years, he was the guy that ran our support operations. Seth is somebody that I look up to a lot. Seth is a really close friend, and over the last 5 years or so, he and I have forged a strong friendship. Well, Seth is, he's the kind of guy that just makes you feel good about life. He makes you feel good about humanity. He has 8 boys, one of them severely handicapped, who has cerebral palsy. And his wife decided that she really wanted a little girl. And so Seth and his wife, knowing that they would have a hard time adopting, already having so many kids, they sought out an adoption through an orphanage in Kyrgyzstan. And this is Ruth Albina, and Ruth is blind. And Seth decided that that's something that he wanted to do. He wanted to make a difference in someone's life. They desperately wanted a little girl, but this is something that he thought he could do. And I really look up to Seth and his willingness to put himself out there, to make sacrifices. Well, Seth, a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, beginning of September, he woke up at 3 a.m. and woke up to find himself being loaded into an ambulance. And he had no idea why. And they went to the doctor, found out that he had had a seizure in the night, and his wife had to call the ambulance. And he learned that he had a tumor in his brain, and the tumor had caused the seizure, and it needed to be operated on fairly quickly. Well, here's Seth post-surgery, and the good news is the surgery was successful. And Seth, having had the surgery just 3.5 weeks ago, is due to come back to the office on Monday, and we're all thrilled. But what makes this story so neat is how Seth and his wife handled this adversity. A little bit of humor in here, right? Poor Seth. He and I have the same sort of follicle challenges here. The other, maybe you'll be home for us for at least a little while. She knows his work ethic and that he's likely to go back to the office and resume his old ways of working 60-hour weeks. But she saw a silver lining in this whole thing, that he would be home for a little while. Sometimes, those of us who go through adversity, we can help others through our own experience. We understand how to reach out to people and make a difference in their lives. And so some of us will be faced with adversity. Others of us are called upon to help. And that's really what I think all of you do. I think all of you embody that, is the desire to help and make a difference in people's lives. As a company, there are many kinds of software that we could write. But I wouldn't be able to get up in front of you and be passionate about accounting software. It wouldn't excite me in any way. I love the mission that we have. I love what all of you do. And I love the fact that we are dedicated to your success. And so we create tools that I believe will help you reach people and help them achieve their maximum potential. Recently at an event, somebody came up to me. It was a conference, and they came up and they said, "Hey, I want to tell you about Mastery Paths." How many of you have seen Mastery Paths or used it? So this K-12 teacher said, "Mastery Paths has changed the way that I interact with students. And she was almost in tears. She said, "It allows me to reach more of my students than ever before. Now I can set up my course materials, and the students who excel can move on and get more training. Those who struggle can, through Mastery Paths, get the remediation that they need, and I get alerted so that I can go and give them individualized attention." And she feels like her students are achieving more as a result. Other really great stories about people using Canvas to make differences in people's lives. There's one, we don't have any textbook people in here, do we? Because I apologize in advance for maybe trying to destroy your business model. We had a teacher who taught accounting at a university. And he enjoyed his teaching, very passionate about working with students. But he decided that he wanted to do more. He wanted to reach more students, and he wanted to find a way to lower the cost of education. And so he reached out to us and he said, "You know what, I want to teach a course on the Canvas network." Again, because I want to reach more people. So he did that. He took a sabbatical from work, and in fact, to fund his time, he even moved out of his house. His wife and kids went to her parents and stayed there for the summer while he did this. He moved into the backyard, into a tent, and rented the house to supplement his income while he created this Canvas Network course. And the Canvas Network course was moderately successful. Quite a few people joined in, and he felt like he was doing a good thing. But he was still concerned that he wasn't lowering the cost of education. And so he looked at this and he said, "You know what? I can take these course materials that I created in Canvas Network, and if I load them into my university's instance of Canvas and add a little bit more to them, augment them, I might be able to do away with the textbook entirely." And so that's what he did. And up to this point, he has saved his students over $500,000 in textbook fees because he created all of the material and made them online and free to the students to use. Now, many teachers use textbooks as a way of supplementing their income, but that wasn't this guy's desire. His desire was to make education more achievable for all. There was also a story that I shared at InstructureCon about a Pacific Islander teacher. So out in the APAC region, she discovered a student who wasn't going to graduate because there were some unpaid fees. And so when she learned this, she said, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to pay those fees for you." Well, the department found out, and the department very graciously offered to reimburse her. They said, "Hey, there's no need for you to do that. We'll take care of it." She refused the reimbursement. She said, "No, that's probably the best," and I think it was like $150, probably the best $150 that I've ever spent. And this was special to her because her being a Pacific Islander herself, she understood what this student was going through and the power that education has in changing the lives of this person and this group of people who historically have been underprivileged. We all have an opportunity to impact lives, and I think it starts here with all of you in this event. Let's take the ideas that we get from today and let's implement them. I think great ideas can be shared when you get discovered and shared when you get groups of people like this together. So, it went away. Anyway, the last slide there really calls out three things that I would love to see us all do. So one, make connections, right? Get to know each other. You've got a room full of people who are passionate about teaching and learning. Make those connections, and then share ideas. Understand how each other is using technology to push the envelope and to make a difference in people's lives. And then finally, and most importantly, pick 2, 3 things that you're going to do when you get back to your regular job that you're going to try to implement. And you may find that you experience adversity, that something stands in your way, whether it be policy or other people at the university. I hope that you're inspired by people's stories of overcoming adversity, that you'll stick to it, that you'll try to bring about change in your environments. And through those experiences, you'll learn a lot about yourself, about your situation, and what can be successful. And so that's my challenge to all of you. Thank you very much. Sure, so great question. I'll repeat it really quick. What are we doing to offer training here in Europe, specifically certification on the product? And it's true, as we scale the operations, historically it's been challenging. You have to grow the business before you can continue to make investment. I think we're getting much closer to that now. And with 85 people in the office, we have a trainer. We will add more training staff. And so, it's one of the challenges of being a pioneer. It's not entirely in place yet. But yes, we are committed to doing that and offering more in region. And if you have some ideas on certification, we'd love to talk to you about that. Certification has never been something that I think that we've done really well. I know some of the other providers in the industry turn it into a revenue stream, and that's not something that we've really been interested in. We want to offer it up. We want to make sure that it's available. We want to reach as many people as we can. But on the certification front, we've never really had a good answer. And so if you would like to talk about that later, I'd love to hear your ideas. You know what? Toughest competitors in the future. First of all, let me state that I'm really glad we're in a competitive environment. I think I said this to a group of people yesterday. Because the competitive environment causes us to be our best selves, right? It means that we're always pushing the envelope and doing things differently and investing in the platform. And our commitment is to continue investing in the platform. I think in terms of competition and where we're looking, certainly the legacy players, they're upping their game and they're doing some interesting things. We still believe that we have a far more compelling product and a better trajectory. It's interesting to see some of the upstarts coming up through the market and what technologies are, how technology is changing the landscape. And so I don't know that there's any one specifically that we're looking at and we're saying, hey, that's a big concern. But it's more the disruptive factor of technology and us not wanting to rest on our laurels and just coast with the current Canvas. We want to constantly be investing. I think our new quizzes platform is an example of that. We've invested quite a bit of money in updating quizzes so that it's current and it's more engaging, has more question types, better data that you get out of that. And that's what the competitive environment does for us. Thank you all so much for your time. Deborah's up next. Very excited to hear what she's got to say.